Hey there, welcome to Instagram Live today, where we bring you the latest news, latest business ideas, and just chat, and I'll answer questions. So ask away, and I will be sure to answer as many questions as possible, but I also want to discuss some possible business ideas and some other things I'm thinking about that are important. Jay, you might be the first one. You're the first one to ask a question, which was, are you the first one? Victoria, how's it going? I hope you had a good weekend. Something I've been thinking about and having a lot of discussions about is, when is a city like New York City going to come back to normal? And what does normal even mean anymore? Like, I'll tell you the reasons I always loved a city like New York City. I remember one time I ran into a guy and I said, "What are you doing in New York City?" And he said, "Oh, in New York City, you could practically trip over deals, business deals and opportunities." But I don't know if that's going to be the case anymore. I think people are moving away from the urban areas. Here's what's happening in an area like New York City. Less people are going to be going to work in offices. So let's say a meeting that I had 3 months ago. For instance, I had a meeting, I met with Gary Vaynerchuk's vaynermedia 3 months ago. I had 2 meetings with them. And I think in the future, I won't go to those meetings anymore. We'll just all meet on Zoom, because people are fine. If I say, "Hey, can we meet on Zoom?" People are going to be fine with that now. They're not going to be like, "Oh no, we really need to meet in person." They might not even be in the office anymore. So I think meetings, one of the reasons to live in a place like a major city like New York City or San Francisco or LA is because you go to meetings there. But for instance, I was supposed to go to LA at the end of April in order to pitch a TV show. I was pitching Discovery Channel, Fox Business, CNN. I was pitching this idea of doing a daily show type of show around the idea of finance and money and investing. And I did the pitches, but over Zoom instead, and it was fine. Like, I didn't have to travel to LA. So the other thing I've always loved about New York City is that I could just walk outside my house and go to a restaurant, go to a comedy club, go to a comic book store, go to a bookstore. But I just don't see that happening as much anymore, at least over the next 6 to 12 months. And now, the one thing we have to lean into is that even whether you agree or disagree with the shutdowns, and whether it was nonsense or whether it was not nonsense, the reality is it happened, and things aren't going back to normal anytime fast, and you can't argue with it. Like, a few weeks ago, I found myself, I was in like 5 different arguments on Twitter, and I realized every single person I was arguing with had an anonymous name. So it was me arguing with 5 anonymous people. What was my intended goal? Like, was I thinking to myself, boy, I can't wait to convince these anonymous people of my opinion, because then the world will be a better place? Of course not. And it's just insane how, like, people are on social media more than ever, but I've noticed there's more anonymous people on social media than ever, and I don't know why, but they tend to be the angrier people, but then they suck everyone in to their anger. So I feel like, oh no, I have to convince, Joking Man USA that the shutdown is bad. And you're never going to convince him, because he could say whatever he wants, or she, because it's probably he. He could say whatever he wants because there's no ramifications, and he could just be as insane as possible, whereas I have to be reasonable. And and I don't even know anymore about shutdown, not shutdown. So I had a conversation, this morning on my podcast. We released this podcast, Mark Cuban, great podcast. I've known Mark Cuban for 22 years. So I'll tell you a story. In 1998, I was doing the website for the TV show The People's Court. And I don't know who the judge is now, or even if The People's Court exists now. But back then, the judge was former mayor of New York City, Ed Koch. And so The People's Court wanted to be the first TV show ever. This is 1998. They wanted to be the first TV show ever to stream live while they were taping. So 6 months before they would even air. And Microsoft wanted to be the video streamer for me. But broadcast.com, which was Mark Cuban's company, also wanted to be the streamer. And so I met with them a ton of times. They finally agreed, okay, James, we'll throw you all of our clients. You can make their websites. Just let us stream the People's Court. We need this. It's the first show ever to stream live on the internet. So I said, okay, you got it. And they IPO'd. They had the biggest IPO in history. On IPO day, they went up 570%, I think, or maybe 900. I forget the number. Some huge number. They went broadcast.com, Mark Cuban's company, and they were streaming the People's Court. By the way, we never got any clients from them, but that's okay. Whatever. And but they used that press release on the day of their IPO, so it really kind of helped them along to announce that. So I feel like in my small way, I contributed to, what happened. And, Mark and I spoke about it a little bit on the podcast that released today. But Mark, for instance, his point is there's so much uncertainty. We don't even know what the effect on kids are. Like, I think most of the people say, most of the data is that kids aren't really that affected by this. But if you have kids, why take a risk, I guess is his point. But all the way on the other side of things, there are tens of millions of people who are hungry right now. They can't get money. They're scared. And I'm not talking about 500 people or 1,000 people. We're talking about 30, 40, 50 million people who are scared. Heck, I'm scared. You know why I'm scared? It's because nobody likes uncertainty. I like the status quo. I want things to just improve from where they were before. I don't like not knowing when things open up. Is it just going to be anarchy? Like in New York City, I saw a video of cops beating up people for not social distancing enough this past weekend. Meanwhile, in Central Park, honestly, probably had 100,000 people in the park not wearing masks. And so we'll see. Does that mean there's going to be more coronavirus? I don't know, because we'll see 10 days from now. There's not much evidence for outdoor transmission of coronavirus, so I'm not that worried. But people are eager to go out, but I'm not sure they're that eager to go to a restaurant. And New York City in particular, already 20% of the restaurants are out of business. Again, I mentioned this the other day. It's not like they're closed. It's that they're for rent. And so here's an idea. This is an important business idea. So I don't know if everybody's on board yet, so maybe I'll repeat this later. Here's a good business idea. There's this concept called cloud kitchens. So in fact, the founder of Uber, he even started a company called Cloud Kitchens. But I think cloudkitchens.com is his URL. But there's this concept that I can go to a rent space in a big kitchen, and because all restaurant sales now are through delivery, I can start my own restaurant. I don't need seats. So a cloud kitchen is a commissary that's legally allowed to create food for delivery, and I can create more than one restaurant. So I can create, James's Sushi-ritos. So burritos that have sushi rolls inside of them. Or I can create, I could change the name completely. I could say, here's Giacomo's Israeli tacos, and I could have couscous tacos. So, you can make multiple menus in multiple restaurants in one small piece of a kitchen. This is not a bad business idea because you avoid the enormous rent of restaurants in New York City. You avoid having to pay waiters and waitresses. You avoid having to pay most of your kitchen staff. You avoid having to pay, all the maintenance of a restaurant, advertising, marketing. You just have to create 5 or 6 menus and give them to Uber Eats, give them to Grubhub, give them to DoorDash, give them to Seamless. You don't have to have just one restaurant. I can create 10 restaurants, and then I can see what types of food people like. So now, what's an idea for a restaurant? Well, you don't just want to create a restaurant with So I'm telling you, this is a viable idea for you to make $1 million a year. So you don't have to just recreate a restaurant that has a full meal with 100 different dishes. Do something creative. So for instance, in downtown New York, there is a restaurant, I forgot what it's called now, but they just sell different flavors of rice pudding. So rice pudding is the only item on the menu, but people order from it delivery. Like it's on Seamless and Grubhub and so on. So So that's one idea for a restaurant that you can create out of one of these cloud kitchens. And again, cloud kitchen is like almost like a virtual restaurant. You rent space in a kitchen, you can cook whatever you want there, and you could sell it legally for delivery. And you're not limited to just having one menu / one restaurant. You could open up 10 restaurants with 10 menus. So one type of idea, there's several types of ideas that I think would work. And one type of idea is take a side dish or a dessert that you love and just come up with different flavors and sell that for delivery. Like you could have, there's you could just have a cupcake restaurant and have just all sorts of crazy cupcakes. Or you could do idea sex with 2 different types of food. And then, like for instance, I took Japanese and Mexican, and I could call my restaurant, quote unquote, James's Sushiritos, and I could just sell different types of sushi, sushi with rice and wrapped in a burrito, and boom, I've got a whole brand new style of restaurant, and the menu is relatively easy to cook, and so on. Or, another type of fusion I can do is, pick 2, right now I'm looking at the message, pick 2 styles of ethnic food. So you could do, sushi dogs, like sushi and hot dog buns. I'm always thinking sushi because I love sushi. You could do, I don't know. What are 2? We just did Japanese. Everybody's thinking Japanese. So let's pick something else. Korean. I don't know. Like you could have bibimbap with, Mexican with guacamole. So Mexican combined with Korean food. So take 2 ethnic foods, combine them, and that's your menu. Here's another idea that works. Take a food that you really like and play around with the size. So when you get an ice cream cone, you get a regular ice cream cone. But imagine, what if you get an ice cream cone that's like the size like this? You could get big cones, or maybe you could get a dozen tiny cones like this size. So, like in New York City, there's Melissa's Bakery, which sells tiny cupcakes for $1 each. So there's all these creative things you can do that are easy to cook, and you rent space in these commissary kitchens, which means you're allowed to cook food for delivery. And instead of creating just one restaurant, you can create 5 restaurants simultaneously and put it on Uber. Put all 5 menus on Uber Eats, Seamless, Grubhub. Honestly, you could probably make about between $500,000 and $1 million a year doing that. And it's not just New York City. You could do it in every town. There's cloud kitchens or commissaries in every town. You could even go to a local restaurant that's closed right now and ask them if you can use their kitchen and offer, just make up some bullshit food like sushiritos or rice pudding of all flavors, or imagine, Jewish food combined with Japanese food. So here's a good one. Ramen sandwiches. So I like to eat the dry, those small packs for $1 ramen noodles. I like to eat dry ramen noodles. So imagine you break it apart and you put pastrami. So ramen pastrami sandwiches. And that's the only thing on the menu. And you just order delivery. So you can have pastrami, corned beef, ham, and maybe a vegan option. And ramen sandwiches. And that's your new restaurant. But that's only one restaurant. That's easy to cook. Then you can have the Sushirito restaurant. Then you can have the Italian-Mexican restaurant, or the Israeli-Mexican restaurant, or the Korean-French restaurant. I don't know what that would look like. I don't like French food at all. But again, you're not limited to just doing one restaurant, which you would be if you started a restaurant. And I think this is where restaurants are going to go in the future. But I do think it's easy. I'm not saying it's easier to do this and make a lot of money than to make a successful restaurant. Like most restaurants don't end up successful. This, you always want to construct things like experiments. So I don't believe the 10,000 hour rule, which says it takes 10,000 hours to get good at something. I believe what I call the 10,000 experiment rule. There's no harm in doing 10,000 experiments. You learn from each one, and you'll be the best in the world after 10,000 experience. So imagine these restaurants, if you rent for a month, rent a small little corner of some official kitchen. It's called a commissary kitchen or a cloud kitchen or a kitchen in a restaurant. Rent a small piece of it, make a menu or 2 menus or 3 menus, and you have no downside. You're only renting for a month. You could give Uber Eats a menu anytime you want, and you test out. Okay, here's James's ramen sandwiches, new restaurant open. You could order delivery today, and all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a pack of ramen noodles that I bought for $1. I'm gonna slap some slices of pastrami in there, and boom, off for delivery. So easy. Now I've got a restaurant, and I could charge $15 for a ramen pastrami sandwich. The ingredients cost me $2, and that's a successful restaurant potentially. And if that doesn't work, maybe my Sushi Rito restaurant will work or whatever. So again, this is an opportunity. Sometimes a side hustle is good for making you $20 an hour, $30 an hour. But sometimes a side hustle with very little downside, you could see if it works, and it could turn into a multi-million-dollar business, particularly if you have 5 successful restaurants going at once. The good thing about this type of idea is if nobody orders anything, take that menu out, put a new menu in, start a brand new restaurant overnight, every single night. Who knows? So that's a good idea for a business. A pickle mustard sandwich. I love it. I would order a pickle mustard sandwich. I want delivery of a pickle mustard sandwich. Or you know what? My favorite foods of all is breakfast food, like French toast. So what if I had a French toast bacon sandwich or something like that? And I also like breakfast for dinner. And there's very few restaurants that will serve you breakfast for dinner. So why not have like a pancakes for dinner restaurant? So again, this is not a bad idea. And it gives, someone just mentioned 7 different streams of income. It's important to know the average multimillionaire, according to the IRS, has 7 different sources of income. So if you start up one of these, 2 or 3 restaurants out of a commissary kitchen for delivery, you're in good shape. So that's one idea of the day. I'll give some more as we go on. Here's another idea though. For people who are, right now everything's remote. So a lawyer, the justice system has not shut down during this period. There's still court cases happening. But what a lawyer needs to do to practice a court case is they argue the case in front of a mock jury. Well, how do you become a mock jury right now when there's social distancing? So here's what you do. Go to ejury, EJURY.com, and you could sign up to be a juror via Zoom, and you'll get paid for your time. Heck, sign up for 20 juries at the same time. So you have all the Zoom windows open, and you make like $20, $30 per hour on every jury you're on. You know what? And if you don't want to sit there, you sign up, but then put your 12-year-old kid there to sit and have 5 different computers going at the same time. And, pretend to be a juror on each one with a different name. So all I'm saying is you can make money by using this remote as to your advantage. You could do remote tutoring. So there's all, I don't know if there's like etutor.com or there's a very online tutoring you could teach. There's all these. Oh, here's a good one. Babysitters. Kids are sick. Parents are sick of their kids right now. If I had like little kids that I was watching, like 5-year-olds or 6-year-olds, I would be mentally ill at this point because I would not be able to stay all day with them. I loved my kids when they were 5 years old, but having a kid that's 5 years old is a little bit odd. It's like in no other situation would you say, my best friend is a 5-year-old girl. Like that would be weird in most situations, but when your daughter is 5 years old, that's kind of the person you love most on the planet. So your 5-year-old daughter is your best friend. But think about it in any other context. It's like your best friend's a 5-year-old girl and you're an adult. That's weird. So that's why parents are going insane right now who are forced to watch their kids all day long because 5-year-olds, it's almost like Zen. They require Zen-like intensity to babysit them. So there's a site, sitterstream.com. You can sign up and it's about $20 or $30 an hour. You can basically play with someone's kids over Zoom for $20 or $30 an hour. I have a bunch of kids that are teenagers. This is a valid way for them to make money right now. So the remote thing is, I don't want to always say, take advantage of every opportunity right now because that feels like, it's hard enough. I don't want to give anyone a homework assignment, but there are ways to make money. There's ways to make millions and there's ways to make steady income by the hour right now. I'll talk about a couple more in a little bit. Let's see if there's any questions. Jay, any questions? Jay, I don't have the link. You didn't send it. Oh, wait, yes, you did. Sorry, Jay. My mistake. All right, bringing up the link. How can you skip the line in writing? What a great question, because I was just writing about this morning. I had to hand in. So remember a few months ago, I handed in my book to a publisher. Well, then a week after that, she came back with 1,000 edits and rewrites. And so this past week, I actually rewrote about half the book. And I was writing today about skipping the line in writing. So here's what you do. By the way, you don't have to be a great writer to skip the line in writing. There are benefits to writing a book that are beyond. You're not going to make that much money writing a book, although you can. I described last week how you can make a lot of money writing books. But if let's say someone was deciding, who should I have as a consultant? The person with no book written or the person with a book? All other things being equal, the business is going to choose the person who wrote a book. So it's not bad to take this time to write a book. Now, normally when you see a book in a bookstore, the book is 60,000 words, 200 pages, but that period is over now. I don't want to go to a bookstore. I mean, I miss bookstores, but everyone in the bookstore is going to be wearing a mask. If you don't have a mask and you go to the bookstore, some policeman's going to tackle you in the I don't know, anime, manga section, and embarrass you. I don't want to deal with it. So when you have a book on Amazon, it doesn't matter how many pages it is. I've seen 2-page books on Amazon. I've seen 5,000-page books on Amazon. I've written at least 2 30-page books that I've uploaded and self-published to Amazon. So let me tell you the skip the line to write a book. I gave up a 30-day book challenge the other day. I'll describe that, but I'll add to it a little bit. The 30-day book challenge is pick an area of life that you're obsessed with. So let's say you're obsessed with persuasion, or let's say you're obsessed with building muscles, working out. Let's say you're obsessed with negotiation. Let's say you're obsessed with sports of whatever sort. So go to, and I'm going to add to this. I'm going to describe what I said the other day, but I'm going to add to it. Go to ssrn.com, Sally, Ruth, Nancy.com. There's 1 million academic research papers at ssrn.com. Now, everyone always says on Twitter, if I say, the virus doesn't spread, outdoors, what's everybody's response? Oh, I think I'm going to go with the experts with this one. Let me tell you something. The experts are not experts. The WHO said about a year ago that the World Health Organization said, at the age of 4, when your kid's the age of 4, you should start teaching them about masturbation. That was an actual press release from the WHO. I think the WHO should start being called the Who Knows, because what are they doing? Every model they've had during this virus has been wrong. First they said don't wear masks, then they said wear masks. First they said 10 million deaths, then they said it's not going to be 10 million deaths. First they said Sweden is a piece of shit country, then they said Sweden is the model for coronavirus. So I don't know. That's the Who Knows. Don't trust them. But people trust, for whatever reason, people trust people who write books. So it's a good idea to write a book, even if you're not a good writer, and even if nobody reads your book. But anyway, go to ssrn.com, and there's another site like that, jstor.com. These are sites that store millions of research papers done by professors at MIT, Stanford, Oxford, Wuhan University in China, which, by the way, is a great university. I think you check out Wuhan University's website. It's all in English for some reason. They've got some good classes, and they do some pretty hardcore research. But that said, go to ssrn.com, Google persuasion, and you'll see, 1,000 papers show up. Pick 30 that are the most interesting to you. That's 30 chapters now for your book. And here's what you do. Here's the technique. For each chapter, do a one-page summary of the research they did in the research paper. And by the way, cite them. Always cite the experts. So as proven in this MIT study, when you put 200 people together and you give them a carrot, they're more likely to do what you say, or whatever the research is. Then show an example from one example from your life where this worked for you, and then show one example from history. Like Napoleon incentivized his soldiers to go into the coldest part of Russia in the middle of winter by doing X, Y, and Z, and show how that relates to the research project. Now that's a chapter. Do that one a day, just 1 or 2 pages for each chapter. Do one chapter a day, and you have research example, historical example, and then your own personal life example. Again, pick any topic, go search for it at ssrn.com, so you'll find all these research papers. So now nobody can say, well, what do you know? You're not an expert. Well, I quoted the experts on each chapter. And now you have a book. But I'm going to add to it a little bit more. You know what books always sell? Books that are based on books. Here, the most popular book ever, in fact, is probably the Bible. Another popular book is the Tao Te Ching, which was written around 500 BC. Another popular book, The Analects of Confucius, written around 500 BC. Another book, The Art of War, written by Sun Tzu. Take these popular books, and there's 30 of them, 40 of them. Take the 195 Yoga Sutras. Take, the Eightfold Path in Buddhism. Take that structure, which has been, you can view those books as they've been focus grouped by 2,000 years of history. So you know people resonate in some primal way with the Eightfold Path of Buddhism or the Tao Te Ching. And now, let's say your topic is cooking. Now write the Tao of cooking. Now the Tao Te Ching, I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's about 80, 90 pages, but it's just a paragraph per page. It's a very small, maybe the whole book is like 2,000 words. It's a very small book. So do the Tao of cooking, the Tao of golf. The Zen and the Art of Archery is a hugely popular book. The Tao of Pooh, hugely popular book. One time, this is serious. One time I had a business that I thought was going to go out of business. This was in 2005. And I was pretty sure I was going to go out of business, and I was scared to death. So I bought a book called The Tao of Star Wars. I legitimately bought that book and read that book every night to give myself faith in the Force so that I could save my business, which I did. But someone actually took the time to write a book called The Tao of Star Wars because he knew Star Wars was popular and the Tao was popular, and so he did The Tao of Star Wars. So take your book, whatever your idea is, let's say it's the Tao of Persuasion, and now use this SSRN technique to find the research papers. But here's another thing. Take your idea list, take your waiter's pad or wherever you write down your 10 ideas a day, and I hope by now people are writing 10 ideas a day. Day one, your list of 10 ideas are the 10 chapters of your book. Oh, the Tao of cooking, the Tao of parenting, the Tao of tennis. Here's my 10 chapter titles. Then the next day, take the first chapter. Make your 10 ideas are the bullet points for that chapter, and do that for 10 days. Now you have 10 chapters with 10 bullet points on each chapter. Now you're going to use this SSRN technique to flush out, and you're going to use the historical examples, and you're going to use your real life examples to flesh out all those bullet points. You're actually going to write a pretty good book about whatever your topic is. And I promise you, within 10 days you'll have a book. Okay, but now you can say to me, well, what if I'm not a writer? What if I don't even like to write? I can't figure out how to write the first sentence. No problem. Hire a ghostwriter. The ghostwriter will interview you for 6 hours about all the topics. Like, tell me about this that happened in your life that you wrote down one of your bullet points. Tell me about this research. So now he'll get a transcript. The ghostwriter will get a transcript of what you just said. He'll edit it down chapter by chapter, and within a couple months, you'll have a book which you didn't even write. And it's your book, and it's all your ideas, and it's even written in your voice because he'll just take the transcript and edit it, the transcript of you talking. So, and then to upload it on Amazon, all you have to do is hit upload. So you can have and call your publishing company, James's IG Live Publishing Inc., whatever you want to call it. You can make up the name of a publishing company. Nobody will question. And someone asked, how do you sell... oh, by the way, I'll get to this in a second. But someone asked, how do you sell books on Amazon? The best way to sell a book on Amazon is to write 2 books. So if you write a book a month in the way I'm describing, one of your books will turn into a bestseller. I guarantee it. Eventually you'll write a bestseller, and then people will start buying all the rest of your books. They'll say, this person's pretty good. I'm going to buy the rest of their books. And so suddenly all your books will sell. So I'll give you an example. There's a couple people on Amazon that I've noticed this phenomenon. There's a guy, I mentioned this guy the other day. Look up on Amazon, Patrick King. I can't even count how many books he has written. He's written like 500 books on Amazon. He probably writes 3 or 4 books a month. If you write even 100 books, and I say even, it's not that hard to write a book like this. If you write 100 books, if you write 3 or 4 books a month, 2 or 3 books a month, let's say 2 books a month, and in 1 year, you'll have 24 books written. If each book brings in an average of $500 and you have 20 books, that means the first month you'll start generating $10,000 a month. Then the next month you're making $20,000 a month. I know people who legitimately make about $60,000 to $100,000 a month because they have about 100 shitty books on Amazon. And I say shitty, but I don't really mean it. Some of them are probably pretty good. Books about habits are good. Books about persuasion are good. Books about how to pick up girls or guys are good. So there's a saying, get paid, get laid, lose weight. So if you could write a book about getting paid, so a book about here's 101 side hustles or 101 ways to make money in coronavirus, 101 ways to make money from your home, that will sell. If you write books about picking up people of the opposite sex, those always sell. If you write books with a diet plan, those always sell. Now imagine if you write about all 3 of those. So figure out what and that's just ideas. You could also write about sports. So what if I want to write about, the 100 best the 100 best athletes in history? That's kind of an interesting book, and I bet you there's research on that, and you could use statistics like, Jim Thorpe and Ty Cobb are actually better than today's baseball players, or whatever. You can write about the 100 best athletes. You can write about whatever you want. If you're writing 100 books over the next year, you can write about whatever you want. Now, here's something. Now you can write a book, The Tao of Writing 100 Books, or the Tao of Book Writing. So you can do this same idea on what you've done over the prior year after you've written a book a month for the next year. And that book might be a bestseller. Now, okay, how do you make money? You can make money from writing books, but now here's where, this is very important. Here's where we go meta. Here's where we do what I call the spoken wheel approach. So the wheel is book writing. Now, at the end of every book, you can write, hey, sign up for my Tao of Cooking email list. And you set up an email list and you start collecting emails from people. Now, every time you have a new book out, you inform people on the email list of the new book. So that's one way to market. And then also, you get affiliate fees. So you make even more money when people go to Amazon and buy your book and then they buy a computer. You get 3% of the sales if you put an Amazon affiliate link in. So having an email list is critical. Then you could do the Tao of monetizing an email list. So it keeps on going and going and going. Then you can do a podcast. You could do a podcast about each book you've written. And you could, let's say you're doing the Tao of Cooking, or the Zen in the art of Zen in the art of cloud kitchens. So how to set up a restaurant in a day. Now you can do a podcast with other chefs who have done this, or unknown chefs. I had a friend who lived in Austin, still lives in Austin, and actually you could look him up. His name's Perry Belcher. He wrote a book, How I Made $1 Million from a Food Cart, a hot dog cart. So he basically, he told me this. He basically was drunk one night. He sat in his bathtub all drunk. He took out a microphone and he just dictated a book on how to set up a hot dog food cart. And that book sold 1 million copies. So he did that. He wrote that book through a microphone. He got the transcript and he published it on Amazon. He sold 1 million copies, if I believe him, which I do. He sold 1 million copies on how to make a hot dog food truck. And boom. Now he helps other people write and sell books. So, boom. How do you generate organic traffic on Amazon? Or do you have to advertise? Well, just follow this advice I'm giving, is that you're going to do an email list. You're going to do a podcast. Now that you've written a book, you can now apply to speak at a TEDx conference and monetize that way. Or you could do public speaking. Like, let's say I do Zen and the Art of Leadership, and I take all these academic studies on leadership, and then I take examples from my own life, and then I take historical examples, and then I write the book, The Tao of Leadership, or Zen and the Art of Leadership, or the 10 Commandments of Leadership. Who knows? Use one of these structures that history has focus grouped. And now you can apply to be a TEDx speaker to talk about leadership. What happens when you do a TEDx talk on leadership is that other companies start inviting you to give talks about leadership to their executives. So you start making $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, and then you start doing coaching about leadership. So there's the books, there's the email list, there's speaking, there's consulting, there's coaching, there's podcasts. You start monetizing, you have the wheel, and then you start the spokes, all the ways you monetize it. So that's an example. Maybe tomorrow I'll give another example, but that's how I think of monetization. So I was able to do that, for instance, with investing. And maybe tomorrow I'll talk a little bit more about investing and what types of investing will be good. I'll also talk a little bit more about side gigs. But here's a side gig that I saw recently. Maybe I spoke about it, but it's called Cameo. And so if you go to Cameo, it's a site where it's an exchange where all these D-list celebrities are on one side of the exchange. And let's say it's my friend's birthday. I can hire Kevin from The Office. Remember Kevin from The Office? I can hire Kevin from The Office, who's on this exchange. Many celebrities are. Gilbert Gottfried's there. Kevin from The Office is there. I can hire Kevin from The Office to make a 5-minute video wishing my friend a happy birthday or a happy Mother's Day or whatever. So this exchange right now is blowing up because it's a creative use of gifts and it's kind of remote again. And so what if you can create an exchange with TikTok influencers on one side, all these teenage girls with 50 million followers, and customers on the other side, where the customers or the brands say, hey, girl on TikTok with 20 million followers, can you shout out my brand? And on TikTok, believe it or not, it's not so expensive. They'll charge $1,000 to shout out your brand on TikTok. And now the brand starts to build up on TikTok. So set up one of these exchanges. Remember, every business model in the world is people who have excess of something, people who want access to that excess, and then a platform or an exchange in the middle. Uber, cars with empty seats. People who want access to those empty seats, and Uber is the platform in the middle. So you could set up one of those. Now, I'll answer some more questions. What's the best email CRM tool? Jordan Harbinger, on my podcast with him a week or so ago, he suggested I try contractually. It's like contract, contractually. He suggested that as the best email CRM. How should couples divide Bill's school fees payment? I don't know. I just pay for everything. That's all I know. Is it a good idea to do an Audible book if your book isn't selling? Let me tell you something. Choose yourself. I have never once in my life listened to an Audible book. And so, but then when I was making Choose Yourself in 2013, Tucker Max, who's written many bestsellers, he's like, James, you better be doing an audiobook for Choose Yourself. And I was like, Tucker, why should I do an audiobook? And I've never even listened to audiobooks. And he says, James, audiobooks are the future. And I said, okay, I'll do one. And then he said, put your wife on the phone. And so I put my wife on the phone, and Tucker Max said, make sure James doesn't just do it in using his shitty little microphone in the house. Go to a professional studio, and for $1,000 you can do it. So I did that, and I've made more money on the Choose Yourself audiobook than on the paperback, the hardcover, or the Kindle combined. So yes, you should always do an audiobook, but I hate doing them. Can you cook at home and sell via social media? Yes, you can cook. So for instance, this is what we do in our house. We have a bunch of kids here, So every kid has a different meal plan. Some people are vegans, some people only eat meat, whatever. So we order from someone we found on social media, and once a week, every Tuesday night actually, once a week, this person cooks all the meals for the week and delivers them downstairs to the bottom of the building, and we get all our meals for the week. That's the only meals I eat during the week now. So yes, you can cook at home on social media. That's a great idea. What's the best business to create right now? It just depends what you're interested in. Maybe ask yourself, what are you interested in? So for instance, how do you know what you're interested in? Well, look at your Instagram right now. Not right now, you're looking at your Instagram on IG Live. After this IG Live is over, look at your Instagram and scroll down and ask, what have I been taking pictures of? Do I take pictures of musicians? Do I take pictures of athletes? Do I take pictures of flowers? Do I take pictures of my kids? Do I take pictures of selfies of myself doing things? Or look at, that will give you a good clue as to what you're most passionate about, even if you don't currently do it for a living. No matter what, I can guarantee you, everything you're passionate about, you can do for a living. You can monetize it. So if I'm interested in, look at like esports. Who would have thought when I was a kid that playing video games could make you a living? And yet now, you don't even have to be a good video game player. There's do you know Ninja on Twitch? That guy he's not a good video game player, but he has a good repartee while he's playing games. He's not a good player. He makes over $20 million a year. So now you don't have to make $20 million a year, but you can make some amount of money. Now let's say you don't want to do that. There's something I call the Google technique, which maybe I've said this before. Google's entire business model is for you to leave its website as fast as possible. Oh yeah, I have talked about this before. You could go to Google and say, Google, please tell me, I need to find the best motorcycles. Google will say, listen, James, I don't know anything about motorcycles, but here are the 10 best websites about motorcycles. Why don't you go to one of them? And by the way, these 3 sites, they pay us to tell you about them, but they're still probably pretty good. So Google measures its success by how quickly you leave Google to go somewhere else. When you're the source of information, people will always go back to you. So the next time you have a question like, oh my gosh, Google, is this herpes? You don't go to a herpes website, you go to Google and ask it about herpes. And then Google will say, James, sorry, don't know anything about herpes, but if you go to these 10 websites, maybe they'll help you. Again, if you're always the source, A, you might get herpes, but B, people will always come back to the source. And if Google's worth $1.5 trillion, and if you do this on a personal level, trust me, you won't make $1.5 trillion, but you will make millions. If you are the source of information and the source of rational, calm thinking, and you're not biased, then you will be the one people come back to. You'll be able to monetize it. People will buy your books. People will listen to your podcast. People will give you speaking opportunities. People will give you investing opportunities. The Google technique is a good, successful way to live life. And people, you know why people don't live that kind of life? They're afraid, if I give away too many of my ideas, if I don't charge all the time to help people, I'm going to miss out. I need to at least charge, right, James? No, don't charge. The opportunity to charge will come later. Be the source first. Create value first. Then you can figure out how to monetize. Google doesn't charge you to go to Google. It took Google 5 years to figure out their business plan. I probably told this story also, but in 2001, this guy comes into my office and he says, James, we've got a great deal. I was a venture capitalist at the time. And I'm like, all right, tell me the deal. And he said, this company, my friend runs this company. It's called Oingo. And they're going bankrupt. We could probably buy 50% of the company for just $1 million. And I'm like, all right, well, what business are they in? And he said, they're in the search engine business. They help search engines rank keywords. And I'm like, the search engine business, that whole industry is going bankrupt. There's no way to make money there. Pass. A month or two later, Oingo got bought by Google. Google gave 1% of Google to Oingo. That 1% is worth, I don't know, $1.5 billion right now. And they changed the name of Oingo to AdSense, and it's 99% of Google's revenues. So my point is, I was an idiot. But, Google had been around since 1996. It was only around 2002 or 2003 that they actually started monetizing their business. So I know people need to make money, but sometimes the best thing is to create value. So Craig from Craigslist is a great example. So everybody uses Craigslist. Craig, the way Craigslist started was Craig knew Mark. He just sent an email of all his favorite things to do every weekend. Hey everybody, here are my favorite things to do in San Francisco this weekend. And the email list got bigger and bigger and bigger. So he made it a website, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger. So he expanded it to other cities. And then he started charging, and he started listing ads and all these things. And that's how Craigslist got started. His first impulse was just to create an email list of, hey, here's some fun things to do in San Francisco this weekend. And that built up until now it's a multi-billion-dollar company. I met Craig at a charity event once. He completely did not want to speak with me at all. He wanted to speak to everybody else because I was probably really annoying because I wanted to get him on my podcast. Will you come on my podcast, Craig? No. What is my favorite food? I have to say my favorite food is good, fluffy pancakes or pasta, but I'm trying to be a little bit lower, eat fewer carbs. Unfortunately, carbs do make people gain weight, and as many people put it, carbs are like a low-level poison. That said, carbs in the evening, not in the morning, in the evening help release serotonin, which helps you feel a little bit more satisfied in life and will help you sleep and so on. So do you think user-generated recipe apps would be a successful idea? I think that's already been done, and I'm not sure it was that successful. At what point do you go from side gig experiment to serious financial business plan with sales goals? I did my very first business. I was creating websites for other companies. I did it on the side for 18 months. I did not quit my job. I had 20 employees. My side gig grew. I had 20 employees in an office, and I still wouldn't quit my full-time job for 18 months. So it took me that long before I took it really that seriously. And I was very risk averse. I'm still very risk averse. People think entrepreneurs take risks. No, bad entrepreneurs take risks. Good entrepreneurs remove risk. Everything in life is risky. Being a parent is risky. Working at a stable job is risky. There's 30 million people who just got fired in the past 2 months. So you can't tell me working at a stable job is not risky. The key to being a successful entrepreneur is to always, 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 every day, reduce risk. When I write a book, I reduce risk as much as possible. I figure out what topics people are interested in, and I start writing articles about those topics using my own personal experiences, and then I see which articles had the most engagement or likes or comments or shares, and then those articles I will expand into books or book chapters or whatever, because it's like I focus group each topic. So that's how I reduce the risk. I know my next book, the book that I just handed in all the rewrites today, I know that will be a successful book because I've already focus grouped all the ideas in that book. Have you ever had someone tell you they only meet in person? Yes, me. I only meet people in person until I only would do podcasts in person until the corona hit. And now I think I'm the opposite. Now I think I will only meet people through Zoom because I like being at home. And, it's an interesting question. I was just having this conversation. Why do you even have to go outside of New York City anymore? All the restaurants are going to be closed. All the cultural things are going to be closed. I like being at home. I got like a video game back here. I could play chess on my computer. I don't need to meet people. Last night, I played in a poker tournament for charity, and it was called Chipping In for COVID, and we played on Twitch. It was so much fun. Some of my friends, I'll tell you who was playing in the poker tournament. Mark Manson, a good friend of mine, he wrote the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. So he was playing. Eric Seidel, the best poker player in history, was playing. Phil Hellmuth, former world champion of poker, was playing. Stuart Butterfield, the founder of Slack, which is a multi-billion-dollar company, he was playing. There was all these very interesting people playing. The head of the NASDAQ was playing. So I got to meet all these people online, and I could connect with them later if I want, in some cases. By the way, I came in second in that poker tournament. Both poker world champions were crushed much earlier on, and I came in second in the whole tournament. I was very happy, although I was disappointed I didn't come in first. It's so funny. You could do really well in something, like anybody else would have been happy to come in second, but when you come in second, you always sort of feel like, oh, just a little bit more and I could have come in first. And so you get a little disappointed. 1 second, I'm going to drink some coffee. This is my Barnard College mug. Barnard College, which I think should go out of business except for the merchandising of their mugs. Maybe that's what's going to happen to colleges. They're just going to sell the sweatshirts and stop with the courses. By the way, I was talking to the founder of Teachables.com, which is an online course place. You could create a course and then they help you market it. And he was telling me that every year, many, many millionaires are created by teaching courses at Teachable. Do you need to be an expert? No. You just need to be a good teacher and study your subject better than all the students. And if you're a good, charismatic teacher and create a good online course, you can make millions. By the way, I forgot to mention this. I mentioned this the other day, but after you write your book, the Zen and the Art of Persuasion, you can teach it as a course on Teachable, and that's another way for you to sell the book, but then you make some extra material, like some video courses, you sign some assignments, and boom, suddenly, so I just got this question, so I'll finish the teacher. So I don't understand this question, Jay. Jay, what to do when people tell you to stop telling people the truth? If anyone tells me to stop telling people the truth, that person's not my friend. You always have to ask the question out loud. Who in life do I need validation from? Like, do I need my mother to approve of everything I say? I'm a 52-year-old adult. Do I need my mother to approve of everything I say? Do I need my friends to approve of everything I say? If I do, are they really good friends then? Like, I'm not so sure. People should basically like you because you tell the truth. Now, I don't believe in radical honesty. Radical honesty is that crazy philosophy where you have no filter. So if you meet somebody and you want to have sex with them, you say right off the top of your head, oh, I want to have sex with you. I don't believe in radical honesty, but I believe that everything you say should be truthful. And don't forget, vulnerability equals freedom. The more you're able to reveal about yourself, the more comfortable people are going to be around you, and the more freely you can talk about any topic because people know you're not going to BS them. You're not going to try to hide or protect yourself. So typically, when someone tells me, oh, you can't say that, I stop being friends with them. Now, I make it one rule. I don't tell the truth about other people. If somebody has a secret that they want to hide, I'll usually keep it a secret. For instance, friend of mine, world famous comedian, world famous, tours all over the world. What's he doing right now? He's delivering for Uber Eats because he never, even though he's famous, he's been doing comedy for over 20 years. He tours all over the world. Right now, all the touring is over, so he's delivering for Uber Eats. Famous comedian, if I were to say his name. And people have asked me, what's his name? I will not say anything that hurts another person. So that's his business. I don't say it. What have we got going on here on cosmopolitan.com? Don't forget, CNN or all these news sites. And by the way, here's where I tell the truth and I'm hurting myself. I just pitched a TV show to CNN 2 weeks ago. They haven't made a decision yet. They're evaluating it today. And I keep going on here and I keep saying CNN is filled with bullshit headlines. So that's how I hurt myself telling the truth. But what can I do? When they say things like stocks fall as U.S.-China tensions arise, first off, let me just see something for a second. They just said stocks fall. Well, guess what? The Nasdaq's up, and the Dow is only down 1/3%. So that's a bullshit headline. Stocks fall as U.S. tensions rise. By the way, for whoever wrote that article at CNN, have you been reading the news for the past 25 years? Because I don't think U.S.-China tensions have ever been good. We didn't even speak to China for 40 years until the 70s. So it's not like stocks suddenly woke up and said, oh my gosh, China is our enemy? We didn't know that. And by the way, dude, stocks are not even down right now. So, okay, that was the bullshit headline of the day. This is another one. I haven't even read the article. Clarence Thomas breaks silence during Supreme Court's first remote oral argument. I don't think that's true. What, he hasn't been has he been on a silent vow for the past 30 years? Clarence Thomas speaks quite a bit. Oh, here's a great one. Coronavirus is threatening the world's oceans. I thought global warming was threatening the world's oceans. Now coronavirus? I thought coronavirus was stopping the pollution in the world. If you look at every satellite map, there's less pollution now than 6 weeks ago all over the world. So it's like the oceans needed a PR campaign again. It's like the Atlantic Ocean called up their PR firm and said, listen, PR firm, we need some help. Global warming has not been in the news lately, but I'm the Atlantic Ocean and I want to be in the news. So can we please get CNN to put a headline that coronavirus is threatening us? Because global warming is no longer threatening us. I can't wait to read that article later. That's going to be fun. Okay, here's Cosmopolitan.com always has the best headlines. Here's the top headline at Cosmopolitan.com. Hey grads, following your passion is bullshit. That's the God's honest truth. You know who followed their passion? Hitler followed his passion. Didn't work out for him. And didn't work out for the Jews either. So following your passion is bullshit. Here's another person who followed his passion. And I've talked about him before. It's my favorite president of the United States. This is the president of the United States. When he became president, he promised he's the only president ever he promised he would only serve one term. And he did. He kept his promise. He was a one-term president. Here's the other thing he did. He created the biggest expansion in U.S. history. He bought the entire Northwest and he annexed Texas from Mexico. So James Knox Polk followed his passion. Since he was a little kid, he was like, I'm going to be the president. I'm going to be the most important person in the country. That was his passion. And he made it. And now nobody knows his name. Nobody knows his accomplishments. And by the way, he was a slave owner, so he was a bad guy too. But I think he released his slaves in his will. That doesn't forgive him. But anyway, he achieved his passion. Nobody cares. Nobody cares if you're going to achieve your passion. Here are the 3 components of living a good life of contentment. Freedom. What percentage of the day are you making decisions that are your decisions and not someone else's? Freedom is number 1. Community. How much do you support and help and spend time with your community? It's proven that community extends your life. Read Dan Buettner's book, The Blue Zones. And then mastery. Always improving. If you love golf, try every day to get better at golf. You love writing, try every day to get better at writing. My time is almost up. I see 1 minute left. Instagram limits these things to 1 hour. Thank you for being on here. I will have more business ideas tomorrow. Today we talked about starting your own restaurant in a day, writing a book in 30 days, in less than 30 days. We talked about all sorts of things, and we talked about urban versus unurban, and I have many more things to talk about. Maybe I'll even throw in some breakdancing moves. Who knows? I'm getting a little bit more courageous about that. Thanks for all the questions. I will post this Instagram Live on my Instagram stories and on YouTube. And my good friend Evan Carmichael has been posting it on his YouTube channel as well. So you can find all of the IG Lives logged at his YouTube channel or my YouTube channel. And it will also be on my IG stories if you hit the live button. Thanks so much, everybody. Thank you, Jay, for keeping track of the questions. Thanks for attending. Thanks, Evan, for logging this. and I will see you tomorrow. Thank you, 2 p.m.